We're in Winterfell, of course, in the north, the realm of the Starks.
Is there a rush of emotions when you come to a place like this? That this, for many people, is the canvas that you have created over all these years. This is it in real life. We're in what became Winterfell. I mean, what kind of emotions does that stir up within you?
It's cool, of course. It's a little surreal. I mean, arriving here and seeing the personnel of Castle Ward here with jackets that say Winterfell on them, and seeing a bus that says Game of Thrones tour, and the signs. When we just came in here, there was a sign by the door. They poured through the castle gate and a river of gold and silver and polished steel, I think. I said, those are my words. Hey, I remember writing those. So all of that's very cool.
Because obviously here in Northern Ireland, I mean, we do feel like we have a special connection to your work, that, you know, we have provided that backdrop for the television series. We have seen this world that was been in previously just in your imagination, and we've done our best to accommodate it. Were you taken aback by how much Northern Ireland has embraced the books and the TV series?
Well, you know, I'd say it's not till this visit that I'm really realizing it. You know, when we began, I've been to Ireland number of times over the years. My wife has been here even more than I have, but many of those visits were before the show. Since the show started, I've only been here once, and I'm startled to realize now that was like 10 years ago. It was when we were shooting the pilot, and that's when I visited Castle Ward for the last time, and it was brand new. We weren't on the air yet. Nobody knew if we were going to be a success or a failure, but I remember being very impressed by that time by Castle Ward, and also seeing the Castle Black set down in the quarry, which is truly an amazing set, practical. It's not just facades, the rooms are real, you can go in and out. The elevator actually works. They've painted a part of the wall white, so at least on the cameras it actually does look like it's made of ice. That was pretty stunning. And the paint hall, where our sets were standing, that was also very impressive. But I don't think I really realized, since I haven't been back for 10 years, the extent to which we've used not only those sets, but many other locations and sets and castles and towns and fields and hills, and the extent to which the people of Northern Ireland have become involved and hopefully affectionate toward the show.
Well, I think that I can speak for every viewer of the series from Northern Ireland, that on the one hand, we can watch the show and enjoy the characters, the story, the incredible sets, everything about it. But we, perhaps more than anywhere else in the world, with one or two exceptions, can play spot the location or also spot the extra. Everyone knows someone who has some connection to Game of Thrones here.
Yes, I was doing a panel at the World Science Fiction Convention in Dublin, which we just attended, and one of the other speakers on the panel, who was from Northern Ireland, said that my show was responsible for a dramatic increase in facial hair among the men of Northern Ireland as they grew out their beards in order to get jobs on the show.
Beards have very much been in fashion for the last while. And I have to say, from a personal level, before I knew that the show was being filmed here, a couple of very close friends had grown pretty monstrous beards, and I was thinking, maybe they just were cold, but no, they were actually living in Winterfell at the time. If nothing else, you have influenced the sartorial style of Belfast and Northern Ireland.
That's right.
Probably forever. That's an achievement. The show, of course, I mean, it came to an end this year, and for everybody that's going to be an emotional journey. But for you, having seen this, your ideas, your stories, your characters taken from the pages of the books, put on the screen, was that an emotional journey for you to finally get to a point where, when the end credits roll, going, well, that is it. That's the end of this particular saga?
Yes, it was. But on the other hand, it's not the end for me. The show, some time ago, caught up and passed my books, which is something I never thought would happen, but it did happen. And I've still got 2 books to write to finish the end of my particular saga. And they're big books, they're monstrous books, they're incredibly complicated, so it takes me a while to write them. Not only that, but every end is also a beginning. We have, in various stages of development, a number of successor shows, all of them prequels. One of them also filmed here largely in Northern Ireland, just wrapped, and is now in post-production. I met with Jane Goldman, the showrunner, when I was down in London last week, and talked to her about that. As we're very excited. We're hoping that that one will the HBO will like the pilot. We'll get a series order on that. There are two other shows that are still in the script stages that are being developed here. T here is actually working on them, and she could tell you all about them, but then I would have to kill her.
Yeah,
So,
we would find ourselves just disappearing. Our loved ones will be wondering what happens to us.
so there's all that going on, and of course I have Fire and Blood, which is just out a few months ago, and that's the first book of my imaginary history of House Targaryen and the Seven Kingdoms. So that's a pretty massive work. So the show may be over, and a lot of the actors and David Benioff and Dan Weiss, the showrunners, they're on to other projects. They're signing new deals. They're going to the next chapter in their life. But I'm still here in Westeros, and I will be for years to come.
And happy to be there?
Yes, yes. I mean, I love Westeros, but I love other things too. I love all my children. What can I say? I also have the Wildcard series. We're developing two shows for Hulu. I've been doing the Wildcard books even longer than I've been doing Game of Thrones. We started them in '87. So we have two Wildcard series coming up on Hulu. We're waiting for a series order from them. I'm working with HBO as a producer on some shows based on materials by other writers. I'm very excited about that. And if I ever got a spare breath, I would like to, write other stories set in other worlds. I've always written many things, not just epic fantasy, but also science fiction, horror, historical fiction. And I still want to write all that. There's just not enough hours in the day, and there's not enough days in a week or weeks in a year. But all I can do is one page at a time.
Well, tell me about that, because of course, your books opened the door for fantasy to so many people who previously would never have gone near fantasy. It's been a gateway into a world that a lot of people had never read before. But they're the tip of the iceberg when it comes to your writing. I mean, yes, Game of Thrones is hugely successful, but that's not all you've done. And I suppose I was thinking, for people who have picked up your books and enjoyed your writing and enjoyed your characters, where do they go next? For the person who's read the entire series so far and has then thought, I want to read more of this guy, where would you recommend readers go to?
Well, there are a lot of things. I have written a lot of other things. If they like horror and historical fiction, they should look for my novel Fever Dream, which was probably the most successful of my novels before I started A Song of Ice and Fire. It's a historical vampire novel set on the Mississippi River in the 1850s, and one that I'm very fond of. We're trying to develop that as a feature film or possible television miniseries at the time. But whether it goes or not, it's still, I think, an enjoyable book. The Wildcard series, especially for anybody who's ever loved comic books or superpowers, we have 27 books in the Wildcard series that have come out from 1987, and one of them just came out on August the 14th. So, and we have several more in the pipeline, so there's a lot of reading there for Wildcard fans.
I mean, you're quite a prolific writer. There's no doubt about that. I mean, your body of work is incredible now. Do you feel that as a writer, as a storyteller, that you have connected with an audience of people who are discovering your other work as well, who are discovering the other worlds that you've created?
To some extent, yes, but, like many writers before me, sometimes you can connect more with one work than with the others. I started writing A Song of Ice and Fire in the 90s. But I'd had 20 years experience before that, working both in television, film, books, short stories, and I was successful. I'd been making my living I've been selling stories since 1971. I'd been a full-time writer since 1979. I had ups and downs, but I won awards. That was my profession. I didn't mostly have to have a day job, which was good, but I never had the level of success that I had with Ice and Fire. So we've had some crossover where Ice and Fire fans, Game of Thrones fans have crossed over to pick up Wildcards or my other work, but a lot of them haven't. And I'm not the first person that's happened to. You look at history, somebody like Frank Herbert, the creator of Dune. His Dune books were monstrous mega bestsellers. His non-Dune books were not.
Many people don't even know that there are non-Dune books by Frank Herbert.
That is correct, yes. And, there are other examples that are similar that you can go to. So people read what they want to read. And the peril of someone like me who works in different genres is that some people won't cross over. They like epic fantasy. They don't like superheroes. Or they don't like historical fiction or books about vampires. That's not for me. Give me another ice and fire. And that's fine, you know. I like pizza, but I don't like fish. So I'm going to seek out the pizza place, and if the pizza guy opens a fish restaurant, I'll pass it by.